Making hyperfocus a habit. We are feeling stressed or bored. We are working in a chaotic environment. We are dealing with and thinking about a number of personal concerns. We are questioning whether we are working on the most productive or meaningful task, or we have unused attention space. The more we have, the more prone we are to mind-wandering episodes. Feeling stressed or bored. We experience stress when the demands of situation exceed our ability to cope with them. By preventing attention space overload, we ensure we have the resources needed to cope with such conditions. Working in a chaotic environment, I define boredom as the restlessness we feel as we transition from a state of high stimulation to a lower one, and becoming accustomed to experiencing less stimulation over time. By enabling our distraction-free mode whenever we hyper-focus, and by working with the fewer distractions in general, we face this situation yet less often, experience boredom less frequently, and make our environment less chaotic by default. Thinking about personal concerns, capturing our minds, open loops. Open loops. Through a task list, a waiting for list, or even a worry list prevents unresolved items from waiting on our mind as we try to focus. This helps us deal better with the chaotic environments and set aside personal concerns. Switching tasks less frequently also helps us think more clearly. We experience less attention residue, which can take a toll on our limited attention space. Questioning whether we are working on the best thing. Working with intention is the best way to experience fewer feelings of doubt about what we should or could be doing in any one moment. These feelings lead our minds to wander from what we are trying to focus on. Amount of unused attention space. Deploying hyperfocus to work on our most complex tasks will consume more attention space by default, which will in turn prevent our mind from wandering. The smaller the object of attention, the more likely mental wandering will occur. The tactics in this book work for a few main reasons. While they all enable you to focus more deeply, they also safeguard your mind from wandering in the first place. Later in this book, I'll examine a few of the factors that lead your mind to wander, including how tired you are and how happy you feel. Your happiness level can affect your attention in many curious ways. For now, though, let's dive deeper into the mind-wandering factor I personally find most interesting. The attention space we have to spare. The power of making your work harder. Depending on our capacity, tests will require very amounts of your attention space. If you ever try to meditate and focus only on your breathing for a few minutes, you might have noticed your mind wanders more than usual. Far more than when you're going for a run, carrying on a deep conversation, or watching a movie. These latter tasks are more complex and fill more of your attention space by default. Consciously making your tasks more complex and taking on more complex ones is another powerful way to enter into a hyper-focused state, as they will consume more of your attention. This will keep you more engaged in what you're doing and lead your mind to wander less often. And this ground-breaking book flow Mihaly offers intriguing insights about what we are most likely to enter into a flow state. When each challenge of completing a task is roughly equal to our ability to do so, and we become totally immersed in the task. When our skills greatly exceed the demands of task, such as when we do mindless data entry for several hours, we feel bored. When the demands of a task exceed our skills, such as when we are prepared to give a presentation, we feel anxious. When the demands of a task are roughly equal to our ability to do the task, when we are playing our instrument, immersed in the book, or skiing down a freshly pondered slope, we are a lot more likely to be fully engaged in what we are doing. If you find it difficult to become immersed in your work throughout the day, that's worth questioning whether your tasks are difficult and complex enough. If you're frequently bored, consider whether your job task is advantage of your unique skill set. If your mind is still frequently wandering, even after implementing the ideas in the previous chapters, it's a pretty good sign your tasks aren't complex enough and they don't consume enough of your attention space. On the opposite end of the spectrum, if you find you're anxious at work, even after taming distractions and are working with more intention, consider whether your current skills are a good match for the task at hand. Outside of questioning individual tasks, it's also worth reflecting on how challenging you find your workload in general. The tactics in a hyper-focus will allow you to accomplish more in less time, but you may then find you don't have enough time work remain to fill the extra time. This can manifest itself in some odd ways. Our work tends to expand to fit the ability completion time and productivity cycles. The phenomenon is known as Parkinson's law. Yes, but by disabling distractions in advance, you may find the same thing I did. Your work no longer expands to fit the time you have available for its completion, and then you discover how much work you truly have on your plate. Some executives I coach find they're able to accomplish a full day's work in just a few hours when they focus on only their most consequential tasks. I discovered this phenomenon firsthand with my last book. After handling an 80,000 word manuscript, which I wrote in a relatively short amount of time, I continued to be just as busy, even though I had substantially less work. My remaining projects expanded to fit the time I have available. Instead of planning for speaking engagements in a few weeks before they were scheduled, I began to think about them much further in advance. Far earlier than I needed to, I logged into my social media accounts for more often. When I should have been working, I stopped following my own advice and I checked for a new emails constantly instead of once a day. I enabled more notifications and alerts so I would have more tasks to tend to. And I agreed to more meetings, many of which I didn't need to attend in the first place. I experienced the dreaded feeling of guilt whenever I wasn't busy, which of course disappeared as soon as I did more busy work. Little did I know that this guilt had two sources: a lack of working with intent, and my work expanding to feel how much time I had for it. It took several months before I finally stepped back to the team. The novel distractions in that were flooding my available time. In doing so, I discovered how little work I actually had on my plate. In response, I Intentionally took on more meaningful tasks, writing more for my website, thinking about this book, and the ramping up my speaking and coaching sessions. Because I think of myself as a pretty productive guy, my failure wasn't tough to admit to myself, but it taught me an essential lesson. Doing mindless stuff at work or at home is not only unproductive but also a sign you don't have enough important work. This also accounts for why busy work gets aside. When you're on deadline, there is no time available to contain its expansion. To measure if you have enough work in general, access how much of your day you spend doing unproductive busy work. If you're high on a busy work scale, you may have room to take significantly more tasks and become more engaged and productive in the process. This advice is counterintuitive, and the very idea may turn you off if you already feel you are working in capacity. But it's worth considering. When we do knowledge work for a living, we procrastinate, spending time and attention on email or social media, tasks that makes us feel productive in our work but lead us to accomplish little. A not on a rat task, while work is often less productive than accomplishing tasks, it is redeeming in one way. It's usually more fun. Studies show we prefer mundane tasks like data entry over more complex tasks like writing reports. In writing this book, I visited Microsoft Research Department, which conducts many studies on how we manage our attention. On each of my 3 trips there, the staff was adamant and comforting that we're happier doing tasks that don't consume our complete attention. This makes sense. While our productive tasks are important, they are usually also more aversive, which is why we are usually well compensated to do them. They take advantage of our unique mental resources. At the same time, managed work can give us immediate feedback and the sense of having accomplished something. It's certain rat tasks bring you genuine enjoyment, though not a productive book making us stop doing them, but do eliminate some to carve out more time and attention for significant tasks. Increasing the size of your attention space. Most of the focus strategies I discussed so far involved in becoming a better custodian of your attention space. In addition, more deliberately managing it, you can also increase its size. The greater your working memory capacity, the more information you have to hold at the same time, and the greater your ability to process complex tasks. A higher working memory capacity has been shown to reduce memory injury when you are focusing on one complex task. A larger attention space also helps you to get back on track quicker after your mind wanders or you become distracted. So, how exactly do you expand the size of an attention space? There are many brain training apps and websites and promises to. Okay, there is, however, one practice that has been proven in study after study increased working memory capacity. Meditation and practice is actually quite simple, like hyperfocus. Meditation involves continually returning your focus on a single object of attention, usually your breath, as soon as you notice your mind has wandered from it. How much control you have over your attention. This eventually enables you to improve each measure of the quality of your attention. You'll be able to focus for longer, your mind will wander less, and you will be able to work with greater attention. You experience this in the same benefit during hyperfocus. Like meditation, hyperfocus is a practice that compounds upon itself. The more you practice, the more you learn to manage your attention, and the longer you're able to focus on the next time around. Meditation is simple. Sit somewhere with your eyes closed and pay attention to your breath. It's natural to feel as if you are doing it wrong, especially at first, but don't overthink it. The effects of this simple practice are actually profound. One study discovered that when participants developed a meditation practice, not only did their minds wander less, but they could also focus for longer. Before that happened, two measures of the quality of attention. The most validated technique for minimizing the destructive effects of mind wandering. Notice the qualities of a breath and refocus on them whenever your mind wanders. I highly recommend using an app to get started. I like Headspace and Insight Timer. When you practice being with your breath, you practice being with your life. But meditation is not the only tool in this toolkit. Practicing mindfulness is another proven way to increase the size of your attention space. It's similar to meditation, but a little less intimidating. Mindfulness is about becoming conscious of what is filling your mind and notice the circumstances of your current moment. This includes noting anything you happen to be perceiving, feeling, or thinking. Mindfulness differs from hyperfocus in one major respect. It's about focusing on circumstances of the present rather than becoming immersed in them. A mindful shower is one in which you focus on sight, sound, and the sensation of the present, which enables you to train your brain to better focus on what's in front of you. Anchor your attention to the circumstances of the present moment. Notice the smell, taste, and the feeling of a cup of coffee. The momentum shifts in your body as you walk from one room in the office to another, or the temperature and the sensation of taking a shower. You can set a timer at night. Simply be with the circumstances of the present moment and notice as much as you can about what you're seeing, hearing, and feeling. When you find yourself becoming lost in thought, bring your mind back to what you originally intended to focus on and how difficult it can be to think. Don't be hard on yourself when your mind wanders. Remember, your brain was built to do this. Here's the key: the smaller object of attention, the more your mind will wander, but the more you will expand the size of your attention space as you focus on. The more quickly you're able to get back on track after you mind ventures off during a mindfulness or meditation session, the better you will become in focusing at work and at home. Practices like meditation and mindfulness are also helpful because they train you to practice in holding a single intention in your mind for a given period of time. During your meditation, you sit with the intention of being with your breath until the timer goes off. The same is true when you practice mindfulness. Until the coffee cup is empty for half full, your shower is finished, or you're done walking to where you intend to go, you focus on what you're doing then and there. When you keep a single intention in mind, you're able to live and work more intentionally for the rest of the day too. And because both the meditation and the mindfulness increase the size of your attention space, both practices make you more likely to maintain intentions. As if these benefits weren't enough, meditation and mindfulness also help you step back from your thoughts. This makes it infinitely easier to check what's occupying your attention space. The more you notice what's grasping your attention, the more quickly you'll be able to redirect it to your intention. With enough awareness, you may even notice your mind has wandered to somewhere productive and you want to continue that train of thought. For example, a higher working memory capacity means your mind is more likely to make plans and set intentions of the future. With this extra awareness, you gain the power to notice and stay outside of attention at edges of your attention space, such as when you're seeking external stimulation or about to fall victim to seductive distraction. The research is clear. Mindfulness and meditation improve virtually every aspect of how you manage your attention. I tried doing the same during the expanded 2-hour meditation practice the next day, and my mind has never wandered so much. With an object of attention that small, it's so surprised. The quality of attention is so integral to productivity that increasing it, even slightly, makes a remarkable difference in how much we accomplish. Even only a few minutes a day will help immensely. If you take away one lesson from this chapter, it should be that few practices will improve the quality of your attention and the size of your attention space more than meditation and mindfulness. While both will consume some of your time, you will make that time back, and that's some, and how much more clearly, deeply, and deliberately you'll think and focus. Chances are you are in hyper-focus mode during your last and highly productive work period. You're likely in a similar state the last time you felt the happiest and energized at home. You're probably focused on is just one thing, whether that wasn't carrying on a meaningful conversation with a loved one, planting a garden, playing cards with a relative, or relaxing with a book on the beach. The one thing you are doing consumed your full attention space. Because of this, you likely didn't have many surrounding distractions. Your work phone may not be in other room, or may have been in the other room, and you may have made a commitment to disconnect for the weekend. Your family may have agreed to a phone-free dinner. You're probably also a more relaxed state, and because of this, there is a novel stimuli in your environment. You could focus with relative ease on what you're doing. Hyperfocus wasn't the best term I could come up with and describe this state of being totally focused on one thing. I like to do this by setting 3 personal daily intentions in addition to my 3 work goals, even if one happens to be binge watching a show on Netflix. One area I've noticed that particularly benefits from hyper-focusing on conversations. The secret to deep, meaningful conversation is simple. Bring your complete attention to the person you're sparkling with. You can do this in many ways, such as by allowing someone to finish talking before you start. A simple but highly underutilized technique. Wait until you hear the period at the end of the sentence before you think about what you're saying next. I'm convinced that most people have a sixth sense, and I can tell when you're truly paying attention to them. It's a remarkable thing when you spend not just in a quality time with someone, but in a quality attention as well. Spending our time at home more purposefully also enables us to feel recharged. Whether at work or at home, the quality of your attention determines the quality of your life. At work, the more attention you give to what's in front of you, the more productive you become. At home, the more attention you devote to what's in front of you, the more meaningful your life will become. Okay, starting provides enough momentum to carry out our intentions. When you begin a new task, working on it for at least 1 minute with purposeful attentions and unlimited distractions is crucial. Here are 4 favorite strategies for battling this initial resistance. Minimize the amount of time you will dedicate to focusing on one task until you no longer feel mental resistance to it. You always have time, you just need to spend in one other thing. If the task swift shows you do have the time, chances are this is just your resistance talking. Incorporate at least one hyper-focused interval each day. You will experience less resistance as you get accustomed to working with fewer distractions and appreciate how productive you become. Hyper-focusing can be oddly energizing. You spend less energy regulating your behavior when you don't have a continued resist distractions and push yourself to focus on what's important. That said, resisting the ritual can also be a sign you need to recharge. So we can stop working on mindless and autopilot mode. Hyper-focusing on our most complex productive tasks lets us activate the most productive mode of our brains and get a large amount of accomplished in short amount of time. Setting strong daily intentions lets us work on our most productive tasks, creating a personalized distraction-free mode and a reduce the distractions mode. Let us work with more focus and clarity while directing our time and attention away from needless distractions. Simplifying our working and living environments lets us think more clearly. Becoming good custodians of our attention space by making our work more complex when necessary and by expanding the limits of our attention help us in properly managing unlimited attention. I hope you are already become more productive, more engaged with your work and life, and a clearer and a calmer thinker. You probably also remember more and view your work and life as more meaningful. As 3 measures of quality of your attention have also likely increased. You spend more of your time deliberately. You're able to focus no longer in one sitting, and your mind doesn't wander from your intentions nearly as much, both practical and technical. I hope you will agree, attention is the most important ingredient we have to live a good, productive life. I call this mode scatter focus because in it, our attention scatters to focus on nothing in particular, while hyperfocus involves directing your attention outward. Scatter focus is about directing inward inside your own mind. Just as hyperfocus is the most productive mode of the brain, scatter focus is most creative. Scatter focus can train hyper productivity when our original intent is to focus, but when we are coming up with a creative solution to a problem, planning for a future, or making difficult decisions, it is just as essential as a hyperfocus. We can harness the remarkable benefits of scatter focus by practicing intentional mind wandering.